Miriam Sankara sat at her worn wooden desk in Ouagadougou, her trembling hand clutching a pen that felt heavier than ever. Sunlight filtered through the delicate lace curtains, casting intricate shadows across the blank page before her, as if urging her to weave her grief and gratitude into words. 37 years had passed since the brutal assassination of her husband, Thomas Sankara. Yet the ache of his absence gnawed at her heart, a relentless wound that time refused to heal. Behind her, a faded photograph of Thomas hung on the wall, his beret tilted with defiance, his eyes alight with a revolutionary fire that once promised a brighter Burkina Faso. That image was her anchor, a silent reminder of the man who dared to dream of a nation standing tall. Just days earlier, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's young leader, had unveiled a bronze statue of Thomas in the city's heart. Miriam had not attended the ceremony. The weight of memory kept her home, watching on a flickering television screen. As crowds chanted her husband's name, she pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling not from sorrow but from a gratitude too vast for words. For decades, she had lived as a ghost in her own country, her husband's legacy buried under lies and erasure. His name was stripped from streets, his books burned, his vision mocked as folly. Yet now Traoré had dared to resurrect him, pulling Thomas's memory from the shadows and placing it in the light where it belonged. In her letter to Traoré, Miriam poured out her soul. "Dear Captain," she wrote, her pen scratching against the page, "forgive an old woman her tears." Each word carried the weight of years spent in silence, hiding from a regime that spat on her husband's name. She recalled visiting the statue at dawn, when the city was still asleep. The artist had captured Thomas perfectly, the proud tilt of his chin, the calloused hands that once planted trees, the laugh lines etched around his eyes. Standing before the cold bronze, Miriam pressed her palm to it, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like touching him again. Her heart surged with a fragile hope, mingled with the sharp pang of loss. A group of schoolchildren arrived, their chatter breaking the silence. A boy no older than 10 asked if she knew the president who fought for the poor. When she nodded, he hugged her, and in his small arms, she felt the pulse of Thomas's dream reborn. This letter was Miriam's reckoning, her first public words in decades. It was a cry of gratitude for Traoré's courage, a lament for the years stolen from her, and a prayer that her husband's spirit might live on. As she wrote, her hands ached, but her heart, for the first time in years, felt light with possibility. Miriam Sankara's letter to Captain Ibrahim Traoré, penned in the quiet of her Ouagadougou home, was not just a cry of gratitude for the bronze statue that honored her husband Thomas Sankara. It was a testament to the enduring power of his legacy, a flame that refused to be extinguished despite decades of suppression. As she wrote, the faded photograph of Thomas on her wall seemed to watch over her, his defiant beret and blazing eyes a reminder of the revolutionary who renamed their nation Burkina Faso, land of the upright people, and dared to dream of a future where dignity trumped oppression. The statue unveiled by Traoré had rekindled that dream, linking Miriam's personal grief to the collective memory of a nation. But Thomas's legacy was more than a monument. It was a living blueprint, forged in the 4 fervent years of his leadership from 1983 to 1987, that continued to inspire. Thomas Sankara's presidency was a whirlwind of radical action, rooted in a fierce love for his people. He rejected the trappings of power, selling the government's fleet of Mercedes-Benz cars and declaring, "We cannot ride in luxury while our people walk barefoot." His policies were bold and practical. He vaccinated millions against measles and meningitis, saving countless lives in a nation plagued by disease. To combat the encroaching desert, he spearheaded the planting of 10 million trees, his calloused hands often joining farmers in the soil. Education, especially for girls, was his passion. He handed Miriam the microphone at rallies, insisting, "The revolution needs their voices." These were not mere gestures but a restructuring of a society he believed could stand tall. He challenged corruption, empowered farmers and inspired laborers, all while sharing bowls of millet porridge with comrades in a spirit of equality. Yet, on October 15, 1987, the revolution was silenced. Gunmen stormed their home at midnight, their bullets tearing through Thomas's body and leaving him lifeless in the courtyard. The new regime branded his death a tragic accident, erasing his name from history. Streets renamed in his honor were rebranded, his books burned, and his ideas dismissed as the ravings of a fool. Miriam, hiding her sons from a vengeful government, bore the weight of this erasure, her heart breaking as strangers spat at her in markets. But Sankara's legacy could not be fully buried. His words, smuggled in tattered books, and his vision, whispered among the defiant, survived in the shadows. Now Traore's statue had brought that legacy into the light, a bridge between Miriam's solitary grief and a nation's reawakening. Schoolchildren, like the boy who hugged her at the statue's base, were learning of the president of the poor. Young artists painted Sankara's face on murals, and his quotes echoed on social media. His ideas of self-reliance, justice, and hope were seeds taking root in a new generation, proving that even in death, Thomas Sankara's revolution lived on. The bronze statue of Thomas Sankara, unveiled by Captain Ibrahim Traore in the heart of Ouagadougou, was more than a tribute to the revolutionary leader whose legacy Miriam Sankara had fiercely guarded through decades of erasure. It was a bold act of resurrection, pulling Sankara's vision from the ashes of a suppressed history and planting it firmly in the present. As Miriam wrote her tear-streaked letter, thanking Traore for honoring her husband, she saw in the statue a bridge between the vibrant years of Sankara's presidency, when he vaccinated millions, planted 10 million trees, and championed girls' education, and a new era where his ideas could inspire again. Traore's action was not just symbolic. It was a spark that reignited Sankara's revolution, stirring the soul of Burkina Faso and giving voice to a generation that had never known him. Traore, a young captain with the weight of leadership on his shoulders, understood the power of Sankara's memory. The statue, capturing Sankara's defiant chin and calloused hands, stood as a beacon in a city where his name had once been scrubbed from streets and his books burned. By erecting it, Traore challenged the silence imposed by the regime that murdered Sankara in 1987. He invited the nation to remember the president of the poor, whose policies had transformed lives before bullets stole him away. The unveiling ceremony, though Miriam watched it alone on a grainy screen, drew crowds chanting Sankara's name, their voices echoing the rallies of the 1980s when he and Miriam stood side by side, dreaming of a Burkina Faso free from corruption and hunger. The impact of Traore's gesture rippled far beyond the statue's base. Young people, born decades after Sankara's death, began to claim him as their hero. Teenagers painted his face on murals, their brushes bold with defiance, while others wore t-shirts proclaiming Sankara lives, his quotes blazing across social media. Students pored over his speeches, rediscovering his call for self-reliance and justice. At the statue, a group of schoolchildren approached Miriam, one boy asking if she knew the man who fought for the poor. His hug, warm and unprompted, was proof that Traore's action had breathed life into Sankara's legacy, making it tangible for a child who saw in the bronze figure not just history, but a call to action. Traore's courage in honoring Sankara was a direct link to the revolutionary's own defiance, a refusal to let the powerful erase the past. Just as Sankara had sold government cars to fund the people's needs, Traore's statue was a declaration that Burkina Faso could still dream big. For Miriam, it was a lifeline, connecting her private grief to a collective awakening. The statue stood not as an endpoint but as a beginning, a challenge to the nation to carry Sankara's ideals forward, ensuring that the upright people he envisioned would rise again. Captain Ibrahim Traore's unveiling of Thomas Sankara's bronze statue in Ouagadougou was a defiant act that not only resurrected the revolutionary's suppressed legacy, but also set ablaze a renewed sense of purpose across Burkina Faso. As Miriam Sankara poured her gratitude into her letter to Traore, she saw the statue as more than a tribute to her husband's transformative presidency, when he planted millions of trees, vaccinated millions, and empowered girls through education. It was a living symbol, connecting the vibrant hope of Traore's gesture, which had inspired murals and t-shirts proclaiming Sankara lives, to a broader awakening. The statue's impact rippled through the nation, touching hearts young and old, and sowing seeds of inspiration that promised to grow into a new chapter for the land of the upright people. The statue became a pilgrimage site, a place where Sankara's spirit seemed to linger. Women, their hands weathered from toil, left bundles of millet at its base, whispering thanks for the man who once fought for their dignity. These offerings were not mere tokens but debts repaid to a leader who had seen their worth. Schoolteachers, inspired by Traore's bold act, brought their students to the statue, where children recited Sankara's speeches, their voices ringing with pride. One boy, no older than 10, approached Miriam during her dawn visit, his eyes wide as he asked if she knew the president of the poor. When she nodded, his hug enveloped her, a fleeting but profound connection that made her heart ache with joy. That child, born 6 decades after Sankara's death, was proof that Traore's statue had made her husband a hero for a new generation. The youth of Burkina Faso, in particular, embraced Sankara's legacy with fervor. Artists painted his likeness on city walls, their murals bursting with the same defiance that had defined his life. Social media buzzed with his quotes, each post a rallying cry for justice and self-reliance. Teenagers wore t-shirts emblazoned with his image, their steps bold as they walked streets once stripped of his name. At the statue, old men in faded military uniforms saluted, whispering, "We're still here, brother," their loyalty unbroken by time. These acts of devotion showed that Traore's statue was not just a monument but a catalyst, reigniting the revolutionary fire Sankara had lit in the 1980s. For Miriam, the statue's impact was deeply personal. When her granddaughter Amina traced the inscription, "Thomas Sankara, President of the Poor," and declared, "Grandma, I want to be like him," Miriam felt hope crack open inside her for the first time since 1987. The statue, born from Traore's courage, had done more than honor Sankara. It had woven his dreams into the fabric of a nation. It stood as a testament that his vision, of a Burkina Faso where every child could dream beyond hunger, could still take root, inspiring a future where his ideals would flourish anew. The bronze statue of Thomas Sankara, unveiled by Captain Ibrahim Traore, had transformed Ouagadougou into a living testament to the revolutionary's enduring legacy, with women leaving millet at its base and children reciting his words, inspired by the hope it ignited. For Miriam Sankara, whose heartfelt letter to Traore captured her gratitude, the statue's impact, reaching her granddaughter Amina's dream to emulate Sankara, was a beacon of possibility. Yet, as she penned her words under the gaze of her husband's faded photograph, Miriam's heart carried not only hope but also a seasoned caution. Her letter wove together a fervent wish for Burkina Faso's future with a stark warning about the dangers that still lurked, tying the statue's vibrant influence to the fragile path Traore now walked in Sankara's footsteps. Miriam's words to Traore were both a celebration and a plea. "You've planted his ideas in a new generation," she wrote, her pen trembling with the weight of decades spent guarding Sankara's memory. But she urged caution, warning of the snakes that had slithered through her husband's era, those who gunned him down in 1987 and erased his name from history. These forces, she cautioned, had not vanished. They now wore suits, not uniforms, and coiled in air-conditioned offices and foreign embassies, ready to strike at any threat to their power. They would mock Traore's statue as a wasteful gesture, whispering that Sankara's ghost was a danger to their interests. Miriam's warning was rooted in her own scars, years of hiding, of watching friends vanish, of shielding her sons from a regime that spat on their father's name. She saw in Traore the same idealism that had burned in Sankara, and she feared for him. Yet her letter was equally a beacon of hope, a call to nurture the seeds the statue had sown. Miriam shared a lesson Sankara learned too late. Revolutions are not won with grand gestures alone but in quiet, steadfast work. In classrooms where girls learn to read, in clinics where mothers survive childbirth, in fields where farmers own their land. These, she urged Traore, were the true battlegrounds. The statue had already inspired such change. Teachers brought students to learn Sankara's vision, and Amina's aspiration to be like him echoed the dreams of countless youth. Miriam believed Traore could build on this, creating a Burkina Faso where Sankara's ideals were not just remembered but lived. Her hope was deeply personal. When her sons, Philippe and Auguste, wept over photos of the statue asking, "Does this mean we can say his name aloud now?" Miriam's heart swelled. She saw in Traore a reflection of Sankara's early fire, impatient, idealistic, burning to fix a broken world. "Protect it," she wrote. "Nurture it." Each night, she lit a candle for Traore, praying he would outlive the bullets that claimed her husband. The statue's legacy, she believed, could guide him, ensuring that Sankara's dream of an upright nation would rise, unyielding, from the ashes of the past. Miriam Sankara's letter to Captain Ibrahim Traore, warning of the snakes that once silenced her husband and urging him to nurture the revolution through quiet, enduring change, struck a deep chord in the young leader. The bronze statue of Thomas Sankara, which had inspired women to leave millet offerings and children to dream like Amina, was a testament to Traore's commitment to reviving Sankara's vision. Yet Miriam's words, both her hope for a Burkina Faso where girls read and farmers thrive, and her caution about the lurking dangers, became a map for Traore. Standing before the statue under a silver moon, her letter clutched in his hand, he felt the weight of her trust and the legacy he was tasked to carry. In his response, written in the cramped office where Sankara once planned a revolution, Traore vowed to transform that legacy into action. "Madam Sankara," he began, his pen scratching across military stationery, "your letter crossed the desert and found me." He confessed his limitations, admitting he lacked Sankara's brilliance or courage. As a boy, he had heard tales of the president of the poor, who gave his salary to orphans, stories that shaped his own path. Now Miriam's words were a guiding star. He recalled his mother, who sold peanuts to fund his education, her cracked hands and dying wish, "Make them see us," echoing Sankara's call for dignity. Traore saw the statue not as an end but as a beginning, a spark to reignite the dreams Miriam had described. Classrooms for girls, fields for farmers, clinics for mothers. Her warning about the snakes in suits lingered, but her hope fueled his resolve. Traore's response was a pledge to move beyond monuments. "I will make his memory unnecessary," he wrote, committing to finish what Sankara started. The irrigation project Sankara promised before his death in 1987? Traore announced that ground had been broken the previous week. The girls' schools Miriam championed? New roofs would shield them by the rainy season. These were not grand gestures but the quiet revolutions Miriam had urged. Steps to ensure Burkina Faso's people could stand upright. He drew inspiration from the statue's impact. Children reciting Sankara's words, youth painting his face on walls. Knowing these acts were seeds of the future Miriam envisioned. In the shadow of Sankara's bronze fist, Traore felt a kinship with the man whose vision had been silenced too soon. Miriam's candle, lit each night for his safety, was a reminder of the stakes. He carried her warning close, aware that the forces that killed Sankara still watched, ready to brand him a fool. Yet her hope, embodied in Amina's dream and the nation's awakening, gave him strength. "I am just a soldier," he wrote, "but your words are my map." With that, Traore stepped into the dawn, determined to build a Burkina Faso where Sankara's ideals would live, not as memory, but as reality. Captain Ibrahim Traore's response to Miriam Sankara, penned in the quiet of a revolutionary's old office, was a solemn vow to transform Thomas Sankara's memory into tangible progress. Irrigation projects begun, girls' schools fortified, guided by her warnings and hopes. The bronze statue, a catalyst for this pledge, had already stirred Burkina Faso, with children reciting Sankara's words and youth painting his defiant image on city walls. Traore's commitment to building a nation where Sankara's ideals were reality, not just memory, set the stage for a future where his vision could flourish. This future came alive in the story of Fatima, a teenage girl pausing near the statue, her dreams and actions embodying the enduring power of Sankara's legacy and Traore's resolve. Fatima, a street vendor selling phone credits to tourists, stood watching workers repave a road near Sankara's statue, its bronze fist pointing toward the horizon. In her backpack was a tattered copy of Thomas Sankara Speaks, bought for 500 CFA francs from a market stall. The book, filled with his calls for self-reliance and justice, was her treasure, its pages dog-eared from countless readings. She dreamed of becoming an engineer, a vision sparked by Sankara's belief that Burkina Faso's people held solutions in their hands. Unbeknownst to her, in 10 years, Fatima would design the nation's first solar-powered hospital, its clean lines and sustainable energy, a testament to the ideals Sankara championed and Traore sought to realize. Her story was a glimpse of the future Traore's actions were shaping, one where the seeds planted by the statue's unveiling would grow into transformative change. This future was deeply tied to Traore's response to Miriam. His promise to build schools and fields echoed Sankara's own battles against hunger and ignorance, battles Miriam had urged him to continue quietly but relentlessly. Fatima's ambition mirrored the hope Miriam felt when her granddaughter Amina declared she wanted to be like Sankara. The statue, a symbol of Traore's commitment, had made such dreams possible, inspiring a generation to see beyond the constraints of poverty. As Fatima stood near it, The statue's presence seemed to whisper Sankara's words. Hunger is a liar. Her determination to engineer a better future was proof that Burkina Faso could roast its locusts, as Sankara's father once taught him, turning challenges into strength. Somewhere, Miriam smiled, sensing the ripples of her letter and Traore's resolve. The statue, a bridge between past and future, had awakened not just Fatima but countless others. Youth wearing Sankara's image, teachers sharing his speeches, farmers dreaming of owned land. Traore's work, guided by Miriam's wisdom, ensured that Sankara's vision was no longer a ghost but a living force. Fatima's hospital, though yet unbuilt, was already taking shape in her mind, a beacon of what Burkina Faso could become. Above her, Sankara's bronze gaze fixed on the horizon, and in that moment, the upright people he dreamed of were rising, ready to claim their future. The story of Miriam Sankara's letter to Captain Ibrahim Traore and the revival of Thomas Sankara's legacy offers a profound lesson. Small, persistent actions can ignite lasting change, even against overwhelming odds. Thomas Sankara, who envisioned a just Burkina Faso, was assassinated, his legacy buried for decades. Yet, Miriam's unwavering resolve and Traore's bold act of erecting a statue rekindled his dream. From Fatima, a girl selling phone credits but aspiring to be an engineer, to Amina, Miriam's granddaughter inspired to emulate Sankara, the story shows how a single spark, a statue, a book, a speech, can inspire a generation. Traore's commitment to building schools and irrigation systems, as urged by Miriam, proves that revolutions are won through steady, humble steps. This lesson challenges us to act, no matter how small our role seems. Miriam endured silence, Traore faced powerful snakes, and Fatima dreamed big despite poverty. Each shows that change starts with courage and persistence. We don't need to be heroes, like Traore roofing schools or Fatima reading Sankara's words. Our actions can ripple outward, shaping a better future. The statue's impact, youth painting murals, children reciting Sankara's vision, reminds us that hope, once planted, grows. If Miriam Thomas Sankara and Traore's journey moves you, leave any number in the comments below. It's your way of saying you love this story and believe in the power of small actions to change the world. Let's spread the spirit of Sankara lives together.